So whether you're working on the MPC Key 61, the 1, the Live 2, or the X, you may notice that you have a limitation of only 4 insert effects. Now, this can be a little bit limiting, but if we understand the best way to maximize the audio routing inside the MPC and where the best places to put effects for, let's say, sound design or effects for mixing, we can really maximize the audio routing and the usage of our effects inside of the MPC ecostructure. Now, if you want to follow along, this project is available for free to my Patreon subscribers. The link is down below. Also, the instruments that we're using are Keygroups from a free pack on the Patreon page called Mini Monsters, which is a sample of one of my favorite analog synths, the Pioneer Tarize AS1. It's a little single voice from Dave Smith, and it sounds amazing. So let's jump over into the MPC, take a listen to this project, and take a look at all the routing inside of this project on how we can best maximize the 4 insert effects and the routing options inside the MPC. So first, let's just have a listen to the project that we're going to be working with. It's just a little 2-bar loop made up of a drum kit and then also some Keygroup instruments. So we're going to be dealing with 2 main screens in order to understand the routing on the MPC. First is the little pop-out menu right here, which you hit the little eyeball to pop that out. And then also when we go over to the menu, channel mixer, but then inside of the channel mixer, when we look over here on the upper left and click on this, we're going to open up a whole new menu of different routing options and different mixer screens that we can go to on the MPC. Now we're going to go over to channel number 1 and start off with the drums, because the drums actually have one extra layer of effects that you can add on each individual pad. So let's open the upper menu right up here and go over first to the left, this big solid square. This means we're on the pad level. Now if we go to the kick, we can see that the kick has the mother ducker input that's sending out a input signal for anything that we want to duck to the kick. So each pad can have up to 4 different insert effects. So let's click in here and we can see all 4 of our slots. Now note that this little folder right here with a Chi on it are preset effects chains, and they are categorized here: voice, guitar, bass, keyboards, and this is a Chi just giving you a good starting point to add a chain of effects onto the actual pad or the program or the submix. So within each one of these pads on a drum kit, we can have 4 different insert effects. Now those are then routed out on the program level. So moving over here, we can see that the program here is called drums, and on this program I just have an air compressor just to glue all the drum sounds together, and these are going out to output 1 and 2. Look at this as the program level of a drum program is summing together all the different pads into one main program output that you can then manipulate all of the different pads. So when we're in the pad level here, look at this as a way to do sound design on the individual sounds themselves. So if you had a snare and wanted to add a little reverb, this would be a great place to put it. However, when we go to the program, we want to look at this more as a summing channel for the actual drums themselves. This is where you're going to add a little bit of EQ if you want to affect the entire drum kit sound, a little bit of compression, or if you wanted to do something of, let's say, add a filter and roll off the high end of all the drums together, you would want to then do it on the program level here. Now let's go over to channel number 2, which has a key group on it. Now, looking at things like key groups and plug-in instruments, this is where we're not going to be using the 4 effects on the individual drum pads, and we're going to be using these 4 slots on the program level to do a lot of our sound design here. Here we can see that we have a high cut and a low cut filter, a little reverb, and a little delay on this actual bass key group. So when you're looking at things like key groups and instruments, the program level 4 slots are really good for the sound design aspect of that instrument, whether it's the bass, whether it's the pad, or whether it's the pluck. This is where you want to do a lot of your sound design. Now in this example, we have all 4 of the slots already occupied with sound design tools, but I want to be able to then duck this bass to the kick drum. That's where the submix come in. Now you can see right up here the routing of this. By default, it just goes to the master output here. It goes to master output 1 and 2. But we actually routed this over to the submix. So think of the submix as a really good way to sum together all of your instruments, just how you would consider summing together all of the drum pads into the drum program. Or in this case, we're summing several of these different instruments over to sub 1 because sub 1 has a ducking on it that's routed to the kick. So all these instruments are going to pump together with the kick. So to look deeper into how this is actually going to work, we're going to go into our main menu and go into our channel mixer. Now on this program level, if we just take a look here at everything along the bottom, we have level, panning, mute, and solo. 4 different sends, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then an overview of all the inserts that are on the tracks, which just steps through insert 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then routing, which shows us an overview of where each one of these programs is going. So we can see that the bass nasty and the pad are both going to our submix, while the other programs are going to the main out. Now, first, the default is going to be just on programs. Here we see our bass, our drums, our pad, our pluck, and then just plug in 01 as normal. And we see our routing up here on top. The bass is going to subgroup number 1. Well, what's going on within the subgroup? So if we click on program up here in the upper left-hand corner, we now can go in and look at our sub mixes. Now here, the bass and the pad are being routed to submix number 1, which then has a mother ducker on it, which is then being ducked by the kick drum, which has the mother ducker input on the pad level. So as you can see, we're now affecting an entire group of instruments and ducking them to a single effect that's on the pad level insert on the drum program. Now if we go back to the sends are then able to send a specific signal over to the returns. If we go to the returns here, we have our 4 returns here on the bottom, and each one of these returns can have 4 different effect inserts as well. Now here on the returns, I've had a lot of success going in and using some of the effects chains provided by Akai, such as the experimentals, the different return effects, which are a lot of the delays, and just experimenting around and finding really unique sounds. So to demonstrate this, let's go back to our programs. And we're going to go to our pluck, which if we go to the send, we can see that the pluck has majority of the signal going into the send number 1. So let's solo this pluck and then go back into our return and have a listen of what's going on. So if we mute the return, this is just the pluck by itself. But now we can turn on the return and see what's going on with the delay in the compressor here. Let's go in and maybe check out some of the different effects chains and see if we can get some weird results going on here. Let's see what ambient stutter sounds like. That's pretty cool. How about time machine? Well, that's pretty cool too. Freeze. So returns, you can see you can either use them for some good experimental sound design elements, or here's where you might want to use, let's say, a standard reverb send and the delay send, and you could send multiple different vocal tracks into these. So if you were recording, let's say, vocals into here, they would be in the audio tracks, and you do the same thing. Let's say this was your lead vocal, hypothetically. You'd go into send, and you could be able to send the lead vocal into, say, the reverb or a delay. This allows you to really save on your CPU because on a single return, you could send 4 or 5 different channels and be using the same reverb on all those different programs and all those different audio tracks in order to save some CPU. So just to recap, on drums, at the pad level, a really good place to be adding, let's say, sound design effects for the different drum sounds. Going into the program where we can then use some basic mixing different inserts such as compressors and EQs to shape all of the drums together. Then when we go over to channels that have, let's say, key groups, or plugin instruments, using the first 4 on the program level as sound design elements, and then routing them to a submix in order to use the different mixing effects like a compressor or a pumper or a mother ducker or an EQ to really glue those instruments together. All right, so I hope that helped to understand how we can maximize only having 4 insert effects inside the MPC, and some creative ways that we can use the send and return effects and also the submixes in order to maximize the usage of those 4 different effects. Now, if you have any tips or tricks on audio routing and effects usage inside the MPC, please leave a comment below, because your tip might be something that unlocks somebody else's entire creative flow. On that note, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe down below, and we will keep these videos coming to you as quick as possible. On that note, thanks for your time. Thanks for your attention. Now go make something cool.